Thank you for your time. So every day we ask police, soldiers, firefighters, other first responders to enter dangerous, unseen spaces. And whether they're firefighters responding to a collapsed building or police responding to a hostage situation or terrorist attack, the inability to see around a corner or inside a space can cost lives. And you might think, well, you know, I watch CSI. Aren't there cool robots and drones and all sorts of stuff that should take care of this? But the reality is that they're really big, bulky to carry, hard to use, expensive, and they all have a limited field of view. So it's always looking at the world through a straw. So what we developed was an omnidirectional throwable camera, something that you can toss into a space and get an instant 360-degree real-time view of what's going on either on a smartphone or on a VR headset.
The dangers that we face are we're going into kind of the unknown.
You've got somebody in a room, you don't know who it is, you don't know numbers, you don't know if they're armed, you don't know if there are innocents in that room.
When you enter that structure, you have to read and react, figure out where the suspect could be hiding, and all that happens within seconds.
I've got 42 years in law enforcement. I've learned that the real safety component for a police officer is knowing what they're going to get into before they get there.
Police, open up!
I mean, how do you do that? Well, this thing gives you that opportunity.
We would use it mainly inside housing units, hostage situation in confined space.
Both for special operations and for patrol operations, possibly investigatory applications. Barricaded suspect or a hostage rescue. Narcotics and investigators that could use this on a surveillance application. Active intruder, active shooter response in a school. It's really limited by the imagination of the end user.
I don't think it's just for tactical situations, for searches, building collapses. There are so many other applications within the public safety arena, not just the policing.
The fire department could probably use some of this technology as well for their search and rescue operations.
We really liked what it does. It's very durable, very versatile for what we want to do.
Sorry, that bass was much more intense than we thought in this space. So we think this is a pretty exciting market. It's about $5 billion in the US alone across security, safety, defense, a whole bunch of things. And a lot of companies will come and tell you, here's all the millions of places we'll get to eventually, but we have paying customers and marquee customers in each of those verticals that we're happy to be able to share. And we are deployed across the country, across the world. Our revenue has been growing month to month. And we get to work with folks like the FBI, FEMA, the US Marshals, LAPD, NYPD, exactly the kinds of folks you would want to be working with to demonstrate yourself in this space. And then the cool thing is that we're finding as we get those marquee leader users that folks around them start noticing. And so when we developed this with the LAPD, about 13 departments in the LA region all signed on from that demonstration. And that tells us, one, that there's a word-of-mouth effect that helps us accelerate our sales. It also tells us that we're not just cherry-picking the techie departments, because if we can get 13 in one area, it would be too much coincidence, right? Our most exciting opportunity for 2018 is we're integrating 4G into these devices, which will allow us to work with Verizon, which has been a strong supporter of us to date, and is the leading provider of public safety communications, to get this out into the world faster. And that adds a recurring revenue element, because now they pay for data and storage, something that Taser Axon has pioneered. One of the cool things that we have is a stabilization algorithm that can be applied not just to this camera, but to consumer-type cameras. So this is what a normal camera would see, and this is what our camera sees stabilized when you throw it off a bridge for a virtual bungee jump. And so we think that has a range of applications outside of just this camera. Team from out of Harvard and MIT, decades of experience in cameras and advanced systems, recognized across a bunch of areas. And we've done about $500,000 in sales so far. Basically a chance to make a great business while make a difference for folks who put themselves on the line for us. Thanks for your time.
How does your solution compare to the existing imaging solutions for tactical applications today?
Sure, yeah. So it's about a third the cost of things like a pole camera or something like that, which is frankly a glorified GoPro on a stick. It's much easier to use. It's much easier to carry. This is something you can put in your drop pouch and have on your back and have in your kit instead of having some huge Pelican case that you drag around with you. So it's much more likely to get used, and it's much simpler to function because it's throwing a ball and opening an app. And it's displayed in a way on a smartphone or in a headset that a lot of young officers that know how to play first player kind of shooter games very naturally know how to work with. So it's omnidirectional, covers all angles, multiple users can see it, much cheaper, much easier. So we think a significant improvement in value for a much lower cost.
How do you plan to scale beyond the pilot markets that you showed us?
Yep. So there's one of the best ways is through distribution channels, and Verizon's our best partner for that. They've got about 1,800 public safety salespeople just in public safety sales, and they're, as you may know, the only thing that's growing for them right now is connected devices. They're under threat from AT&T trying to push into that market for them on the public safety side, and so we're one of the highlighted technologies that they're pushing next year. So that's one of the distribution channels we're using to scale across from what we can do internally as a small team.
And lastly, do you have IP around the stabilization technology that you showed us?
Yep, we've got 3 issued and 2 pending patents. Yep.
Yeah, sure. In terms of innovation, what are you going to do to stay ahead of a new entrant into the market who wants to copy what you're doing?
Yeah, so the nice thing about this is that it's reasonably difficult to copy all the elements of it, right? So you can make a 360 camera. It's not that, there are 360 cameras, but that plus stabilization, plus going through a window, plus being able to operate in infrared and operate in all these different scenarios is quite challenging. So there's a technical barrier to copying this. The second barrier is that we spent 3 years working with the most elite teams in the country, getting validation from them, and this is a reputation-based market. And so it's not easy to just show up and say, like, here's the sort of crappy imported solution that just kind of copies it, because you've got to build trust and you've got to build faith. And so that forms a sort of non-technical barrier to replication. And then we're continuing to innovate. We're looking at applying this to thermal cameras. We're looking at small robots that we're going to be piloting with Dallas and a few other places. And then we're applying this to other, like to vehicle 360. So we're continuing to improve our technology while maintaining that reputation that we've taken a lot of effort to build.